Okay, we're recording now. All right, first of all, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country. We'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri, Ngunnawal and Gundungurra and Biripi peoples of Australia, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which Charles Sturt's campuses are located, and pay respect to their elders, both past and present. And I'd also like to add that I'm living and working on Wiradjuri country in Naarm, which is Melbourne. So thank you very much for coming along today. We've got three speakers today. We have Dr. Asim Qayyum, who is a senior lecturer in the School of Information Studies. He's currently coordinating the information management specialisation in the school. His research is currently focusing on two topics: the role of wisdom in knowledge creation works and community engagement practices of public libraries. The second speaker is Dr. Anita Dewi. Anita is a lecturer in the School of Information Studies. She is currently pursuing her second PhD, yes, you heard that correctly, investigating placement programs in libraries, archives and records sectors. Her research interests include workplace learning, professional identity and information literacy. And our third speaker is Dr. Arif Khan, and emphasising the doctor there. Nicely done. Dr. Arif Khan is a research training coordinator across the Division of Library Services and with the Research Office. Prior to this role, he worked as a senior client services librarian at the university, and he's held earlier positions at the Pakistan Academy for Rural Development as a trainer and research librarian. So there are three speakers for today. The title of their presentation, as you see, is An Analysis of Service Delivery and Costing for Public Libraries. The presenters today are happy to take questions as they arise, or you can pop them into the chat and we can either deal with them as they turn up or we can look at them later. So with that, I will hand over to Asim, who is our first speaker. Thank you, Asim.
Thank you, Jane. So welcome, everyone. Good to have all of you along. This project, we started like maybe, 4 or 5 months ago. We hope to have had it all wrapped up by now, but some of the data collection is still continuing, especially the quantitative side of data has not been fully gathered. So what we are presenting today is more of qualitative findings from the interviews that we held. So the background of the project is that we previously did some research for libraries ACT here in Canberra on some of the programs for the children that were happening, that are happening over here, and then we did some reporting on that one on what is the how they're done, and maybe some improvements or other suggestions on that one. The second project is around the service delivery and costing, and the key objectives that libraries ACT wanted us to deliver was that the delivery of digital services is done to the community. Of course, that's a key objective, but there are other departments who make use of the library services in order to avail the service delivery options which are available and all the customer service which is available in the library. So that is one thing. And then there is this creating a safe environment for the community, so that when there are people coming in who are going to use the library resources, but they are essentially they're going to use the computing facilities, but not the other library services which are there, like the books, journals, or all the digital material that the library provides. So all of those people who are coming into the library may not be, many of them may not be interested in what the library has to offer, but are more interested in the digital services that other government departments or other services provide. So as a result of that, they come in, they use the computing facilities in the libraries, and then they are, if they need some help, they approach the library staff who are happy and willing to help them in anything that they want. And they are also it is essential that the service delivery continues in terms of providing services for the library resources as well as the other government resources, other government services which are available, and in a safe manner where there is no disruption, there is no rude, aggressive clients who are there in the library causing some disruption to the operations, and then finally the costing. So if library is going to provide all of those services for other people, who should pay for that? Who should pay for all of those services? So those are some of the objectives that we started off with, and we started exploring these objectives as to, okay, what how many people are coming in, what is the behavior, user behavior in the library, what is the impact on the staff times, what are the staff, how staff are supporting that clientele in all those services which are being provided. So that is, yeah, that's where we started off with. We did some interviews, as I said earlier. So we designed the study so that we are not confined just to the library's ACT here in Canberra, but we also thought that let's go and ask people in libraries Tasmania and the Yarra Plenty libraries in Melbourne. So that way we have a cross spectrum, a wider spectrum of view of what is happening in the arena of public libraries providing services to clients. And these two libraries, Tasmania and Yarra Plenty, they are considered to be sister libraries to libraries ACT, because they sort of have a similar smallish network of libraries under one administration. So that's why we thought that it would be nice to have a view of what those libraries are also doing, in addition to what is happening here in Canberra. So the first stage was interviews, and we interviewed the staff members, some of the frontline staff members, some of the branch managers across the 3 library systems. In the stage 2, which is now happening, we sent out some diaries, and we are hoping that people will fill out those diaries and send some responses back to us. And we also have surveys out there for the staff as well as library visitors. So in the survey, we are also focused on the clients, people who come in and use the library facilities. And for that purpose, we have put those library surveys in social media environment, so that hopefully we get some responses from there. So there are 5 only from libraries ACT. We have got like 12 people who were interviews, and there were a few other people from Yarra Plenty and Tasmania who were also interviewed for the study. So what we are presenting, as I said earlier, is more of the findings, preliminary findings actually from the interviews, and hopefully we will have some complete set of findings very soon to present. So if there are any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat box, and we can address them as we go along, or you can wait till the end of the presentation and ask at that time. But happy to also answer any questions that you might want to ask at this stage or later on. So yeah, just feel free to raise your hand, to use the raise hand feature, and you can also talk to you about any question that you might have. So I would like to invite Anita to come in and talk about some of the findings, initial findings, and then Arif will be coming in to present. So we've divided the analysis between the 3 of us. 3 of us, we have done some analysis, each person, and so Anita is going to present her findings from the analysis she did, And Arif is going to present his analysis, his findings from the analysis he did, and then I'll come back again and present the findings from my analysis. So over to Anita.
Thank you, Asim. So hi again, everyone. As Asim mentioned, I'm going to be sharing with you a few points from the first part of the, I guess, first section of the data analysis of our interviews. So the question that I looked at was the question of why people come to the library to seek help in the first instance. And as you can see on the screen, multiple reasons. So the first one is accessibility issues. So a range of accessibility issues was mentioned by the interviewees. But I'd like to actually highlight more on the second bit, which is the cyber anxiety. So the community members who come to the library to seek help, they do because they feel anxious about scams and all of that, practices or malpractices that happens quite spread out at the moment. So, and this includes elderlies, most likely. So they know that scams are out there and they become anxious because of that. So that's another reason why people come to the library to seek help. The other reason that was brought up in the interviews was lack of own resources. So they don't have laptops, or they don't have devices, they don't have internet and things like that. Another reason was the language barrier, particularly for community members to whom English is not their first language. So that becomes an issue as well. And that's why they come to the library, because they feel like the library is a safe place where they can seek help. And there are pleasant, friendly people who are helpful and would be patient enough to go through these the issues that they come across with them. Another reason was not tech savvy. So I'll just pick one or a couple of examples that I heard that we gathered through the interview. Was that elderlies, again, they got given, for example, mobile phones, smartphones by their grandchildren. Here you go, I'll give you a smartphone. It can do multiple things from A to Z. But then they got really scared if they push some things, or they touch something, that they will break that. And again, that's why they come to the library, where the friendly people, the friendly space is there. And of course, library is a public space, so they can come and go as they wish, and that's why they come to the library to seek help. But most interesting one is the last one, where the interviewees actually refer to this, that people do come to the library because they got referred to from other agencies. And that includes not only government, as Asim previously mentioned, that we predict that was probably the case, but also non-government. So when some examples that was brought up in the interviews, for example, if in the case of an accident, police would send the community members to the library, go to the library, get help because you need to report this online. The post office next door send these people to the library to go through forms and all that. That is not related to the traditional library services. Rather, it's things for passports and things like that I'll go through in the next few minutes. But also network providers. So like mobile phone providers, they refer these community members to the library. Go to the public library. They're nice people. They can do, they can help you, and they're happy to help you. So that's what we found in the interview. Would you mind clicking to the next slide, please, Asim? Now, the other question that we asked as well is how about the users accessing online government information and services. The how and when is actually, it's a mix of between these community members having a go, try it first, and then if they fail, they can't make sense of how the services works online, they then come to the library. But there are also quite significant number of people who just come to the library to seek help in the first instance. And in terms of the government levels of information, it ranges from Commonwealth and territorial levels. Remember, because these are the samples that we're discussing today, it's just the libraries ACT. So it's not Yarra Plenty, not Libraries Tasmania. And in terms of the type of questions, these are the list that is mostly asked. So it's about visa forms, passports, anything MyGov. And apologies for the typo there. So proof of COVID vaccination was quite prominent as well during the pandemic period. Seniors card, domestic violence form, tax information, and as Asim has also mentioned, printing. That's also big in terms of these community members coming to the library and get help, because what they need to do is print forms, fill it out, and then submit. So they don't have that facility as well at their homes, so they come to the library to get help on that. Now, what do the library staff members have in terms of resources and tools? What they have is actually mostly the same as the library users themselves who are seeking help from them. So online forms, they're either already found by the user or client, for example, passport application. And then what happens is these clients or these library users come to the library and read through and follow instruction along with the library staff members. Or going online and find the form with the user and download it together so that the user can take a copy to fill out, because the library staff, of course, can't fill out the form for the users, and then submit it online together. Or again, looking at government forms with the user. Now, this is the thing. It's because the government forms online is not the most intuitive either. So sometimes it is also confusing for the library staff. And what they use is just the normal standard public computers in the library, so nothing fancy, and they don't have any training. These staff don't have any training. They don't have the qualification or even protocol to keep up to date on handling such situation. So most of the times they learn as they go as well. And how do they learn? How do they train themselves? Because there is no training as such. They either self-learn as they go, or they learn from each other. So it's a lot of team sharing, staff sharing between one and another. I guess that's the last bit of my section. Arif, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Anita. So my analysis was more about what the participants said about staff development opportunities or things when they are providing services to different community members. So first of all, I mean, acknowledging the diversity as a cornerstone of their mission. The majority of participants revealed that it is crucial role of the libraries to foster meaningful connections. They also emphasize the need of cultivating relationships and take a kind of center stage. They also highlighted about creating spaces that resonate with inclusivity and cater to the unique needs of the community. Cultural competency also emerged, as you can see, as a guiding compass for that reason. So the participants highlighted that a deep understanding of the diverse culture, traditions, and different perspectives is essential to provide such services to the community, and even to evolve the programs and services. So there were views about the need for cultural competency, and when I asked them why do they need cultural competency, they highlighted that besides awareness, adaptation to the richness of the community they are serving is also important. So that adaptation part was very much emphasized by the participants. because there were issues and problems when they were building that kind of relationship with the users. The language barriers was one of the focal point during the discussion, and the participants said that libraries set up as a facilitator of empowerment. So the language barrier not only for themselves, but it was significant of, linguistic diversity, particularly for non-native English speakers when it came to provide services to them. Some suggestions were around initiatives to provide language classes and literacy support for the professionals. And lastly, the legal research. That was very much, interesting aspect when I found that they were acknowledging the complexity of legal matters that they were dealing with when users asked for some questions about legal aspects. So participants recognized that they need to be equipped or their staff need to be equipped with the basic and essential research skills and legal research skills. And this newfound capability, as they talked about, was to extend a helping hand to users grappling with legal questions or transforming the library into a center of legal guidance within the community they are serving. The next slide. Yes, impact on library-related work. There were a lot of discussions, and we were trying to identify like how such services provision impacts their work. So, and how this expansion of job responsibility beyond their traditional work and housekeeping activities impacted their role. So the participants were positive about facilitating access to information and services, including the provision of digital literacy, and regarded such services as an integral part of their job. However, they highlighted that this commitment comes at a cost. So the currency of time and patience engaging with patrons in pursuit of information retrieval or guiding them through digital literacy issues proved to be a time-consuming venture for them. So it demanded not only attention to details, but also the virtues of patience and reassurance that they are spending much more time on providing such services. Competing priorities and limited capacity was another factor that had an impact on their work. So we had discussion about complex tasks that are, prone to delays, especially when users lack essential information or identification, or so these kind of things added another layer of complexity to already complex job of searching the web for the information that they did not have or they did not know about. So they also acknowledge that they have interruption to their routine task to assist patrons, and some of the participants even said that they spend even hours to provide such services to complete even one job. Participants emphasized a little bit about more support from other organizations to properly carry out these tasks and activities, and they also identified that they were not properly trained in providing such services. Next slide, Asim. Yes, challenges and barriers. So there were a lot of challenges and barriers that were identified during data analysis and during discussion. One significant challenge was the complexity of programs. So the participants, what they said is like they identified the difficulties in providing instructions or assistance to user when confronted with unfamiliar or intricate programs. So for example, if some user asked about some legal information on how to, let's say, apply for a visa or something like that, and that complex information acted as a barrier, creating a gap in understanding and hindering this smooth delivery of support services. They also highlighted the need for a simplified and user-friendly approach to program design and implementation to ensure that users can access and benefit from these initiatives without further complications. Around language and time and access, there were discussion about providing assistance to those with limited English proficiency. And that was not only a challenge, but also time consuming. The lack of accessible external resources, for example, certain types of websites when they do not have an access to them, or when they need some certain type of permissions to access particular information for the user, that was a major challenge for them, for the participants, for the library professionals to provide such services. Homelessness and mental illness was one of the major thing that they identified, because they were saying that we had a lot of participants with homelessness or mental health issues. And a distinctive challenge was which basically added to the demographics of the participants. And because the people who heavily relied on library services to access the internet and information were not able to access it at their own, or even tried but have failed. So, and this particular situation added a layer of complexity while accessing those information, because they did not, the users did not have the complete information of what they were looking for. So the absence of such information, for example, online complete information about online banking, or visa information, or immigration information, was a practical challenge for the library professionals to access that information. And they also suggested requiring an innovative solution to accommodate and support this vulnerable group, which they identified as a homeless or having some mental issues. So these were few of the challenges. We are hoping to have some more findings when we gather more data and expand it more accurately, what they were facing and what they are facing at this time. To you, Asim, now.
Okay, thank you very much, Arif. So there were, I mean, all of this working with people who are looking for library resources, as well as people who are seeking some external information, does come with some rewards. So there was a sense of personal satisfaction, a sense of achievement that the library staff felt when they helped someone, or when somebody would really reach their objective. Got the visa form filled out, got the visa, maybe got the immigration form filled out, or whatever. And they do mention that there were some stories about how they received some big thank you notes or thank you in person, people coming back to the library to thank the staff member who helped them. So there was this sense of that was really rewarding, in that sense that when somebody comes back and says thank you, I came here especially just for you, just to thank you, and here's a gift also for you. So maybe some chocolates or something, which is just usually shared among the staff members, but that person came back for a particular staff member. So there's always those personal relationships which really mattered. So the staff members, as I will mention later, so there were some, if one staff member had an issue with some client who came in and wanted something, there could always be somebody else who could help that other person if some difficult situation arises. So I'll talk about that here. So there is always this risk of facing some aggressive clientele, and because it's a public arena, so it's a public space. Anybody can come in. Everybody is actually welcome to come into that space and use the facilities over there. The physical violence against staff was rare, but verbal aggression was common. So when we asked the staff members, they would say, "Oh yes, yeah, it happens, but not that frequently." But the thing is, it does happen. It does happen quite frequently in terms of the staff members may not be on duty at that time. There might be somebody else. So there are other people who are working, and it might happen to the other person. So this was fairly common occurrences from what we gathered. Property damage is also rare, but it may occur. So it's a thing that if there is this verbal aggression which is happening, and post-COVID seems to have increased, especially in this climate of more of inflation and so on. People are stressed out. People are maybe a bit angry with themselves or with the environment in general, and they just, this person in front of them, they take it out on that person. So this has to be curbed so that this verbal aggression doesn't turn into a physical one. There are some known hotspots. So all the libraries, all 3 library systems, they would have 1 or 2 places they know that here is where aggressive clientele may come. And as Arif talked about, some of the mental illness and homelessness and substance abuse, so those contribute to those known hotspots which are there. So it's generally the aggression, the violence is there mostly from life stresses, and then in those hotspots, especially there's this homelessness and mental illness which contribute to that. The staff are vigilant, so they are. If a colleague calls them for help, they are vigilant. They're ready to go out and help that colleague. And as I said earlier, the relationships are different. So there's one person who does not get along, who had a problem with the staff member, or the staff member tried to calm them down, didn't work. But another person comes in, they have a different way of dealing with that person, and a different way, different person, different personality, and so on. So the client would be more maybe would be more receptive to that other person, may get along well also with that other person. So it's always good to have those the backup colleagues, and all of the staff members. They were very more willing, even if they're working in the back office. If somebody calls them from the front, they are willing to go out and immediately help them. They're all aware of the safety and incident reporting procedures also, and most of them had done that. And if needed, which is sometimes once in a month, they do mention that external help like police needs to be called in. And they mentioned that, yeah, it has never really escalated to a situation where there was some physical violence. The client who was maybe causing trouble, and that client aggressiveness may be against a staff member, or maybe against another client over there in the library. So they could have a verbal argument with somebody else who is there in the library using the library facilities. So it could be either one, but usually the person who was aggressive or was causing trouble, they would normally leave before the police comes in. So all good in that respect. But the main thing is that most of the situations can be resolved through dialogue, and that is what the staff would really need, a de-escalation training for all of them, either by calling another colleague or maybe knowing how to de-escalate just through dialogue. So that's the key thing, that if they know that the other person is getting aggressive, how to tone them down. So that training would really help all the staff members. And so there is some impact of the aggression on the staff members. Some of them seek transfer, relation, but not very common. It doesn't very happen, but it does happen. And the management is usually very responsive to such suggestions. If somebody wants support in any manner, all the staff members, they mentioned they were very happy working over there because the management is very supportive of them. So if they want a relocation, that's the last resort. It will happen. So they feel that if they need to call upon the management to help them in any way, they will help them. Even in training, for example, the de-escalation trainings, and much of the training is available for staff members. But yeah, maybe there is a bit of a hesitancy among the staff members in taking up that training, or they don't feel that it's necessary or whatever. The library management can maybe step in there and ask them to take that training. That might help. But yeah, there is a bit of a stress. Some of the staff are a bit stressed out at times when they are, especially when they feel they face an aggressive client, and then they go home. They don't want to come back the next day. They feel like just working from home, that's fine. The management is again very supportive, and they are usually allowed to work from home. If there's any incident, they do have other grievance procedures where they can help in that respect. They get help from the management in that respect. So some of the staff recommendations in terms of what could be done to improve things in the library, they say that there should be more signage. So the more signs, like they say in all the public public spaces, there are signs that improper behavior will not be tolerated. Aggressive, rude people will be asked to leave, and so on. So they say that you have more signage over there in the library that warning people that they have to behave while they're in there. While they're in there, should help. There should be more collaboration from government department, as was mentioned previously. There should be. There are government departments who sometimes come in and do some seminars for training the clientele as well as the staff members in their services. But yeah, there should be more better collaboration. So if the government department is, for like a post office, is sending people over there to do something, then the post office should be willing to send in people and provide some maybe seminars, training, service awareness to the staff members and clients of the library to improve things and maybe make it a regular thing. The increase in security camera footprint will enhance also. So that will not only enhance security, but it will also enhance the staff confidence in how they know that they have somebody at the backup who's monitoring the camera, actively monitoring the camera. So it's not just the video which is being recorded, but somebody's actually monitoring those cameras also in case help is needed. So they're especially, I mean, some of the hotspots, for example, the car parks, winter evenings, it's dark outside when staff members go out in the parking lots, and some of the parking lots may be in just some dark areas, not well lit up and so on. So the library management should look at making sure that there's camera over there and there's lighting and so on. So there should be the response time for camera viewing needs to be improved, not wait for the police to come in or somebody else to request the camera footage and so on. So there's a need for more client staff policies, interaction policies. So it's not left up to the people to come up with their own strategy to deal with aggressive behavior, but there should be some policies, procedures, training to back it up in how to deal with such clientele. And there should be there is pressure, of course, on the library facility, computing facilities. People want to come in and use those facilities, and sometimes there are more people than the facilities available. Very rare, but it happens. So some more monitoring of the computing facilities is needed, especially for printing, maybe service booking. Even Libraries Tasmania, for example, they have for people who come in and want some longish service from maybe some outside the library services, they have to book a time to talk to a librarian about that. So those are those are some of the recommendations which were made by the staff members, and we are still we are continuing to gather some more data, and hopefully we should be able to come up with better findings, some better suggestions, recommendations on how to deal with this new situation where there is a service cost shifting. So other government departments are cost shifting their work over to the libraries, and they expect the libraries to do that. Librarians said they are very happy to do that. So all the librarians mentioned that they consider it as part of the job. It's not that they consider it, if somebody comes in and starts asking them about some health department requirements, they don't feel that it's something that they don't do. They feel that they have to help this client. So that is the inborn nature. That's the nature of the client service that is provided by the libraries, that they help anyone who comes in and asks for help. But to have those people being sent by other government departments to the library, that is a bit of a service shifting, and there should be some cost responsibilities shared by other people, other departments with the libraries concerned over there. So that is all we had to say. You're most welcome to ask questions. We'll be happy to answer those questions as much as we can. Thank you everyone for coming along, and I hope you found this presentation useful.
Thank you, Asim and Anita and Arif. Thanks very much. Has anybody got any questions? There's nothing in the chat, but if you have something you'd like to ask, just pop up your hand or come off mute. I can't see everybody, but I'm assuming you will pop up if you have your hand up. While people are thinking, I have some questions. So this is really interesting for me to hear this presentation, because it echoes a lot of what I've been finding with my homelessness study in rural and remote and urban libraries. One thing I did ask, you didn't say was you were giving diaries to people as part of your data gathering. Could you explain a little bit about that, like what you're hoping to capture with those and who's getting them?
So the diaries are quite, we kept them simple. So we are just asking people to fill out those diaries anytime there was an incident, what happened, how was it handled, and so on.
This is library staff.
So all the diaries went all to the libraries, and staff members picked them up, and some of them are on their way back to us also. Let's hope we find some useful data in terms of what incidents happened, how staff dealt with those, and yeah, any other detail that can be provided.
Great, that sounds like really interesting data. One thing that I've been also hearing from library staff who are having to help people with their banking and their domestic violence reports and that sort of stuff is it's embarrassing, and they worry about the privacy issues of seeing people's banking details and that sort of information that you wouldn't normally get from a stranger. They're suddenly faced with this stuff, and it can be quite confronting for library staff.
Yeah. So I think a few library staff mentioned that yeah, sometimes there's this personal private data, so they help as much as they can. If it's too personal, then they might just walk away and let the client do it by themselves.
One thing I saw that was working really well was in Darwin. They were regularly in the library, they were getting in the births, deaths and marriages. People would come in and they would print birth certificates for people, because a lot of people, they can't claim any of their entitlements because they can't prove that they exist. And so if they can get a birth certificate, that can then help them then start claiming for monies and things that they're entitled to. So it's something that was really interesting.
Yeah, printing is one service which is heavily used in the library. So they say that everybody who comes in, many of them come in just for printing. So it's something that needs to be more monitored in terms of making sure that the service availability is good on that one.
Yeah, and charging for it too can be a real barrier for some people.
Yeah.
I did have a question for you. You were talking about some of the new skills that library staff would like to have, things like legal information knowledge and de-escalation skills. Do you think that's something we should be teaching in LIS education schools, or is it something that is better off to belong with like professional development in the workplace?
That's a good question. I think, yeah, these are some topics that we could include somewhere. I'm not sure where, but yeah, it could be. Arif, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I found a very interesting thing while I was interviewing these participants, Jane. And I found that most of the staff in public libraries have been or has been transferred from other government departments to their library, and some of them did not have that formal library qualification or education. The difference between those two that I found was the people who had that library qualification were more inclined towards skill enhancement and achievements. And the people who are, I mean, directly transferred from any other government department to work in the library as a maybe manager or frontline staff or whatever, they were less inclined towards that. So your question is very valid regarding this. We can, or the school can think about what specific skills are required, or if there is any change in the skills set for the people who are willing to work in the public library is obviously a good option to do. But what I thought, they should have a bit of library qualification attached to those who are working in the library, public library especially. Yeah.
Thanks, Arif.
Can I just add to just the specific on the de-escalation training? You mentioned that, Jane, as well. These public libraries, including the one in Yarra Plenty Regional and Tasmania, they do have the de-escalation training. And here's the thing with training. There is no training specifically on, the government, other government agencies, services, or, information, that sort of thing. But there are trainings, there are training sessions, and it's supposed to be a PD, regular PD that these staff do. However, because these staff are assisting and helping people who are seeking informations on other government agencies, they are very time poor, and they just can't put aside time for PD or for refreshing their training. So it's kind of a, it goes in a loop like that. And just really, this goes all back to the cost shifting, because then library staff will have to spend, like what Arif said, of quite a few in their view said that they need to spend an hour or even up to 2 hours with one client many times just to take them through such, seeking either visa forms or passport forms and things like that, that is not in the traditional library services such.
Yeah, that's all good points. And I know some people in libraries who have had trainings, particularly in de-escalation and working with vulnerable communities, and they do the training and it's all great, and then they don't see anyone or have an experience where they can use that information or that knowledge for like a year or 6 months, and then by the time it actually does be needed, they've forgotten it or it doesn't immediately come to mind. So yeah, it's quite complex. Yes, there's a question there about how many staff are generally in libraries at a one time. Yeah, Linda, it varies across, as Nita says, there depends on where you're working. Most places would have at least 2 people. It's unusual for one person to be on their own.
Usually there is at least one other person. There are, for example, it depends on the services which are being offered also. So, for example, in Warden, they've got a music room and all of those multimedia facilities over there. So there's one person who is always upstairs in that space. I've seen at least 3 offices. So there are other people who also work at the back end. So yeah, it's usually more than even 2 who are there in the library at any point. Yeah. Some of the bigger libraries have like maybe 4 or 5 people at any time.
Well, if there's no more questions, thank you very, very much for the 3 of you, Asim and Anita and Arif. The AAA team, yeah. As Ahmed has now called you. We've got a K-related team and now we have an A-related team. And also thank you to everybody who has presented this year in these information and communication studies research seminars. It's been a really excellent way to enhance the research culture of our school. So great thank you to everybody who's presented, and in particular to you 3 today. And we will be back next year with a whole new fresh year of presentations about the research that is being done in our school. So thank you very much,
Thank
and
you,
we'll see you all
everyone.
later.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.